Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's visit the Peak District. Some parts of the Peak District are very high and quite windy. The rivers in the Peak District were originally the sewage system for the local farmers. Even today, they still dye the water urine colour. The Peak District will always be famous for the discovery of the trace. And the first ever sighting of the trace was that hill up there, about 29 years ago. Okay then, so this is it. 29 years ago, this is where we first met the trace. We first sighted the trace up there on that mountain. And I had to sneak up to see if I could catch her, a bit like this. She did see me, and then she came down.
Yeah, you know, we're actually nearer that trace than what we ever imagined we could. She's just over there behind us, and I'm going to try and get as close as I possibly can. I may even be able to stroke it. That's better one thing, maybe more to death before I get there. I'm just tripping you. I'm just going to get nearer. Very quiet.
The trace was first sighted next to this wall, breathing fire, before the interaction with the humans, causing the first human trace hybrid. No one knows what happened to the trace afterwards. Rumours are it fled back to the countryside. Other rumours are it found a better person to live with. Either way, the trace now is disappeared from society, and all we have is this grainy footage.
It's got his back on me. That's always a bad sign when it's got its back on you. It means that it's not looking at you and not at all frightened of you, which means it's going to attack me because I am a threat. A threat. This may be the trace in the wood. But indeed a great moment. It's a shame I'm going to die. If it's getting to the bottom of the hill, my knees are now trembling, and thankfully you can't see them. I'm totally unscared. It's true. It's coming towards me. Its hands up to its mouth. It's sharpening its claws, and my voice is gone to pop. It's squealing.
In the Peak District, people do look after each other, and there's even a big hospital here, which you can't see through the trees, but unfortunately, it's shut down. The beauty of the Peak District has always given people an artist inspiration, including, of course, Banksy. Here we are in Holmefirth. Holmefirth thinks it's the capital of the world, well, certainly of England, but it's not even the capital of the Peak District. However, bizarrely, Holmefirth is most famous for being in the Peak District and the filming of Last of the Summer Wine, which was a TV programme that was terribly bad. But it did have some interesting characters, including Nora Batty, who lived just up them stairs there.
Here I am outside Nora Batty's house in Holmefirth.
As well as the famous cafe, which in real life is a cafe. Holmefirth Also has a traditional type of shop, which is a gun shop here. Oh, hang on, no, it's a gin shop. Oh, forget that. Like many villages of its type, Holmefirth also has a garage. This one is called Wheelsbrook Services Limited. Sadly, it's closed at the moment, but it does have a portal to Wigan. Look, you can actually get to a district of Wigan if you go up this lane here, leading to Goose Green. Or alternatively, if you do it wrong, you might end up in the Falkland Islands. Ugh. If you like churches and such things, there's a beautiful church here in Holmefirth in the Peak District. It's not just Last of the Summer Wine that was filmed here in Holmefirth. Also filmed here was, of course, Taki TV's very own soap opera, which was called Being Jordashian. And this here is the site, now removed, of the bench where the first kiss on TV ever occurred, here on Taki TV. The Peak Distrians were always proud of their engineering prowess. They had quarries, they had reservoirs, they had everything. They even made the Peak District themselves. However, it all went horribly wrong when they decided to build this road. This is Mab Tor. Built in 1827, this road was the main thoroughfare between somewhere and somewhere else. Not anymore. They tried to resurface it many times, as you can see here. It looks like a rock formation, but it's not a rock formation. That is just layers of tarmac. They just kept filling it up and filling it up. I'm not saying the landslips were actually huge, but this piece of tarmac here has actually moved round about 100 yards, because the actual road is just underneath that grassy bank there. That is the actual road, and it's slipped all the way down to here. This angle again shows you the damage caused by building a road somewhere where you should never build a road, i.e. where there's always landslides. See the drop there where the gentleman's walking? Unbelievable. But fair play, they kept filling it up, and then they give up. Some people say that the geology here is made up of interesting rocks. It's not, it's just made up of layers and layers and layers and layers of tarmac. The road, which is down here and up there as well, same road, was closed eventually in 1637, 200 years before it was built. So here's a tip to all future engineers and builders. If you look behind you where you're building and there's a mountain that half of it has disappeared, chances are it's not going to be a good area to build something, especially a road or a house or a school. To be fair, some roads were actually built quite well. For example, this one, which goes all the way up this beautiful mountain, all the way to the very top and down the other side. The mountains and the hills of the Peak District and the moorland are amazing. It's difficult to believe that only 3 people made all this in 36 hours. This wooded walkway was created last week using, well, Lego. Very realistic though, I must admit Lego's got a lot better over the years. There's more abandoned engineering here in the Peak District. Here we see 3 tunnels that go through this very large rock, which is in fact a mountain. And it goes through all the way to the other side. But it's been abandoned. Yeah, I have no idea why. Assume that they use cars instead of trains, I don't know. Here we see an abandoned platform for a railway station that was never ever used. It was built in 1265 by Harold. Took him about 4.5 days using medieval Lego. See the few pieces there that are still showing. But sadly, as trains hadn't been invented, it was abandoned before they even started using it. I'm not saying there are a lot of reservoirs in the Peak District area, but there's so many reservoirs, it really should be called the Reservoir District area. I mean, even on this map here, which only covers a very small part of the area, you've got 1 reservoir, 2 reservoirs, 3 reservoirs, 4 reservoirs, 5 reservoirs and 6 reservoirs. So in that area there, we've got 6 reservoirs. So, welcome to the Reservoir District. So here we are on a dam, and this dam separates one of the reservoirs from the other reservoir. So we've got like multiple reservoirs and all these dams here to protect everyone and make sure that no one drowns if the water ever gets out. Not that I think it ever does, but if it did, it would make a mess. See here closer on the other side of the road, the reservoir, all the water stored there for the people of Manchester and the surrounding districts. Most places are open to disabled people, people with permits, etc. Not here. Big sign there saying that even if you've got a blue badge, you still have to pay for your parking. Welcome to the Peak District. One thing you can do if you want entertainment is go down the Blue John Cavern. It's world famous in the area for going underground and looking at things. It's open 75 days a week, including today, although at the moment it's closed. If the thought of a Blue John doesn't do it for you, don't worry. You've got Speedwell Cavern, and on there you go underground in a boat. Like many villages of its style, Batewell has a square, but this one is square because the Victorians were here before they built it. Batewell is famous for its old architecture, such as this Neolithic house. Batewell is famous for many things, including this tight, twisty road that no one knows the name of, or can drive a car down, or can even walk down, or find. This tree is the gnarly tree of Batewell, named after the fact, well, it's gnarly, and if you look one way, it does look like there's a human face in there as well. Very spooky. Another tradition of Batewell is to stick locks on this bridge. Yeah, me neither. If you ever want to see lots and lots of locks, you can either go to Scotland or you can come to Batewell. Although to be fair, these locks are completely different types of locks. Batewell is famous for the Batewell pudding that we call the Batewell tart. However, it's all a myth. The Batewell tart was in fact a lady of the night who serviced many men in Bake-Up and never charged any money until they named a tart after her. When in Rome, do as the Romans. When in Batewell, buy some Batewell sheep poo. Tasty, yummy. Sadly, the shop's closed at the moment. Like many towns, Batewell never had a roundabout until recently. Once they heard about the roundabout at Carnarvon and also the roundabout at Scarborough, they decided to build their own roundabout and put a monument on it, as it's the best roundabout in Batewell. Monument Roundabout, Batewell. Very much like in Llandudno, it's always worth noting where you're parking so that you don't park underneath where birds do what birds do. There are also caves that you can actually go into as well, like this little one here, which is full of Johns and Barrys, apparently. It's called Horseshoe Cave, or Suicidal Cave. A young couple apparently took their lives in this cave in the 1930s. But they didn't really. Hang on, John's coming. It's amazing how some stories just get into folklore even though they're untrue, which is why here at Taki TV we only do true things. Buxton is easily the capital of the Peak District. It's got a proper shopping centre and it's even got a sex shop as well, although it's not open at the moment. Buxton was built in Victorian times, which ended about 5 weeks ago, as you can see from this arcade. Every town that ever had Victorians always had these canopies over the shops. The reason for that was, of course, that Victorians were incredibly lazy and didn't want to dry their hair when they got home. Also this one as well, which is on the other side of the road. If you're in Buxton and you want to buy a surprise present for someone, you can do a lot worse than come here. You can buy a diving bell and also a gramophone record, as well as old style toy cars. If you want culture, well, come to the Opera House here in Buxton. There's plenty of culture and elderly. I'm not saying Buxton is posh, but every meal has to be served with caviar, even at the chippy. Buxton was built on water, literally built on water. There we have the Buxton Baths, and also as well a water fountain where the water is unfit for drinking. Water is still mined here at Buxton, bottled and sent all over the world, but allegedly that is fit for drinking. Behind me is Buxton Crescent. It was built in a crescent due to the fact that the architect didn't have a ruler. Buxton is one of the few places in the country that still has a bank. Sadly, it's closed at the moment. The Peak District is made up of 3 types of peaks. You've got High Peak, which is where we are now in Buxton, Middle Peak and Low Peak as well. But altogether, it's just the Peak District. It's lovely. Look, pubs as well. They even have pubs. Here we see a stone viaduct with a railway line over it that goes on for 16 miles in both directions. It's massive. The Mam2 road was replaced by this road, which is called Mam2 or 3, I don't know. But it was dug out through pure rock by 84 hermits And it took them 5.5 minutes to make. As you can see from this angle, what they dug was actually quite deep. There are some areas, particularly in the Peak District, that have strange names. For example, Hope, Pagefield, stuff like that. But sometimes, some towns have a very bizarre name, and even more bizarre reason as to why they've got that name. For example, the area I'm in now. It was named after an event that happened in 1227, where the chief of the area hid some black peas, some dried black peas, all around for the locals to find. Some were hidden here, some were hidden there, but could they find them all? Some were hidden in the local woods, or in the river. Others in the local dam. In fact, all but one were eventually found. Where was this last one? Well, after 15 years of waiting, he told them. He said, "See my whistle? It's in there." But he talked in dialect. So actually, what he actually said was, "It's Tintwistle." And guess what? So there you go then. The Peak District. Beautiful place. Lots of fauna and flora. It's got some towns and villages. It's got everything you'd want. So if you want a holiday that's got flora and fauna and mountains and hills and reservoirs, you could do a lot worse than choose the Peak District to come on holiday. You could do a lot better, but you could do a lot worse. Till next time, bye. So after that, he decided to name the area Tintwistle, so they would never forget where the last P was. And to this very name, Tintwistle is its name. If you like ascending and descending dangerously steep slopes like this one, then you do a lot better, a lot better, or you could do a lot worse than come to the Peak District, especially if you go the wrong way. Oh shoot! Oh, it's can also get attacked by the flora and the fauna. I think these rocks are made out of marble because they are very, very slippy. Very, very slippy indeed. So yeah, if you want to come to the Peak District, wear some shoes that have got decent tread on them. Another thing to note as well in this area are the walls. There are many, many, many thousands of miles. In fact, someone counted it, there's over 1 million miles of walls, and it's dry stone walls. These walls were built 4,000 years ago by Inuits, and they're still standing today. That is proper engineering. If you're lucky enough to have won the lottery and you've got yourselves a yacht or a boat, well, you can park them here next to this reservoir, but you can't put them in the water because this is drinking water and that'd just be dirty. Once the people of the Peak District realised they weren't very good at making things out of engineering and stuff, they decided to make this massive hole here. This used to be straight the way across, it was solid land. They've dug down, formed this flat valley, and they now grow crops in there. So they are now horrible farmers. So there you go then. The Peak District, beautiful place, lots of fauna and flora. It's got some towns and villages. It's got everything you'd want. So if you want a holiday that's got flora and fauna and mountains and hills and reservoirs, you could do a lot worse than choose the Peak District to come on holiday. You could do a lot better, but you could do a lot worse.
Where shall we go today? Where shall we go? Where do you want to go today? Let's visit!